Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we assemble to explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 6th season, we are looking at the Avengers. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Real Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright, and today, what's up, big worm?
Today we're talking about Minute 107, which begins with the arrival of the Leviathan and ends with Thor confronting Loki. Back on the show, we have Ryanne Bennett from Black Girl Nerds. Hello, Ryanne.
Hello. I'm definitely afraid of what's about to come out of the sky. But thanks for having me anyway. Thank you. Appreciate it.
There you go. Yeah, no, this is, we end the last minute yesterday with a great cliffhanger as far as this ominous sound coming from the sky. And, it was a perfect place to end the minute because the beginning of this one, we actually get the reveal. And it is this giant space worm. According to the art of the Avengers, this is how they described it. A giant armored space creature serving as interdimensional troop transports for legions of foot soldiers who emerge from the scaled sides of these biomechanical beings.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
So, okay, if we can, try to jump back to when we first saw this movie. What do you recall thinking when you saw these giant, metallic space worms coming out of the sky?
Ooh, I think I was just like, what is that? I was just, because it's like with these Avenger movies, they can always for me, it feels like a combination of a monster. It's like big enough where it gives you that Godzilla impact, but it's like, what is it encased in? Do they punch it? What can they shoot it with? Like, how do you get these things back into the sky, like, quickly?
Yeah.
So I think when I just was like mystified when I first saw them, like now we have a time to ingest it and they've had like crazy villains ever since. But I think the first time I saw it, I was like, have they lost their minds? Like, how do you defeat something like this in the middle of New York? Like they already tore up half the streets. Like, what are they going to do? And then like the innocent people, like seeing them run and you're like, you got no chance. Like you like everybody, you know what I mean? Like it just feels so overpowering is what I remember from the first time looking at it.
Do you like it as far as creatures go?
I mean, it's all right. It's a little like, it's a tad too destructive. You know what I mean? But it's a good, like, it's a good time. It's a good IMAX time. If you see it in a certain screen, it's a good time. You know what I mean?
Too destructive, but it's a good hang.
It's a good hang. It's too destructive for my taste.
Well,
then you got Thanos down the line. So you know what? Never mind. I'll just take these. It's fine. It's fine.
That was the first thing I thought. Well, first of all, it's disgusting. I think that there was this thing when these other beings start popping out of its side. Like, I still think, like, I know you say troop carrier, but there's a little part of me that's like, are they like being born right now? Is that thing like laying those warriors on those buildings? Because that's straight up gross. And then you start seeing the kind of just casual destruction it's doing to the buildings. And I remember being shocked about this part of the sequence that I know we just destroyed some pavement down below, but this thing is casually knocking entire like skyscrapers down just by being present. And I thought that's something I did not expect to see in an Avengers movie. I did not expect to see the level of destruction they're trying to put on this screen. I thought they're really going someplace with this. I don't know where it is, but it's making me uncomfortable.
Yeah, especially again, New York City. Like, is this the right city to be doing this sort of destruction in? But it's what it is. They really wanted to make sure that it was here. Bringing the people together.
Again, what was our alternate choice? I think it was like Boise. I think we went through this.
Boise.
The Battle of Boise. Sure. It doesn't hold up.
We were debating between Battle of Boise or the Battle of Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge.
Because then we get Gambit.
Man.
Yes.
Whew.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And alliteration. So.
Oh, yes, we like that.
Yeah.
With these Leviathans, I guess the thing that I always felt with this movie is I always had a problem with the Chitauri anyway, because it's always, is it metallic? Is it what kind of creature is it? It's really hard to tell. Is it wearing a mask or is that thing its face? I don't really know. And then this thing comes out and it's like, okay, are these all part of a species together? Because as you said, Pete, it's like, is this the queen and it's birthing all of these Chitauri all over the place? Like, because it kind of seems like that's what it's doing. It's very peculiar. And to that end, it's, there's some weird elements to it. So it's, but it is kind of fun in its own creepy way to kind of watch what it's doing. I do wonder, as all these Chitauri kind of launch out of its sides, it's like, I don't fully understand the mechanics, because it looks like it launches them and it looks like they're tethered. Like they've got a rope tied to them.
No. We call that the
umbilical
cord.
Oh, gosh.
Because this is why I'm asking, because initially it looks like they're tethered in and they're going to, I don't know, I guess initially I thought they would just like swing down and then come down, but they jump across. It's like they're launched out of the side of the Leviathan, and they land and grab onto the buildings and then like start clambering down. But the umbilical cords, we'll just go with that, they all like pop off, and it's like they're not tethered. And that's the thing that's so strange, is like, is that thing somehow launching them? I guess, I just don't really understand what the point of that stringy thing is. But that, I think, speaks exactly to the point that these are being birthed out of egg sacs that are along the underside of the Leviathan.
Who knew
it's an activation sequence.
Yeah,
like, just right. When you had enough, we got 5 more kids at the end. It's like it never stops. It's so scary because it just doesn't stop. You would think at some point there's enough of them, but it's like they just keep coming. It's just like this endless like terror, and you're like, there's only a certain amount of Avengers, right? Like, how are we supposed to take out all these things at one time?
Yeah, right.
Oh, so gross.
I really enjoy the shot of Steve and Clint as they're looking up at this thing, and I just kind of want to see them go, well, we did our best. Let's go.
Yeah.
Buy a drink.
Like, do you think they're happening to every city? Because we could just go to Baton Rouge. That's the line.
Exactly.
Do you think that Quinjet still works? Because I'll bet we could get out of here before it hits.
Yeah, right. As the Leviathan comes down, again, we have to remember, as it comes through the portal, it's going straight down toward the planet, like it's falling, essentially.
Yeah.
But somehow it's floating, because of course it is. And it's very gentle in its arc as it comes down the front of Stark Tower, and then kind of does this dip, knocking the statue, like the top half of the statue, from the front of Grand Central Terminal. Do either of you know what this statue is?
Oh, Andy, I didn't know this was another statuary quiz.
Oh, no. I didn't cram for the pop quiz.
One of those classic statuary quizzes.
It is the Glory of Commerce Sculptural Group, is what they call it.
The Glory of Commerce.
The Glory of Commerce. Jules Félix Coutan designed it, and it is right over the clock, which I will just say, it looks like it's about 11:25 in the AM as the time they're doing this battle. This work is also known as Progress with Mental and Physical Force or Transportation. Those are the 3. I don't know why it has 3 names for this particular statue, but it does. It was unveiled in 1914, so 1 year after it was destroyed here in the Battle of New York would have been its centennial birthday.
Oh, that's so sad.
Made it all the way from 1914. This stupid thing had to lay its kids on it. This guy's
right.
thing is the worst, man.
So, the absolute worst. This thing was carved in Paris and then shipped to New York City. It includes representations of Minerva, Hercules, and Mercury on it. Mercury is right at the top in the center there. And he is the one who gets cut in half. So that's pretty much what happens to poor Mercury.
I love what comes right after that, because we get the introduction of Iron Man back into the minute, and he flies parallel to the Leviathan, and I think that's a really cool shot. It's like one of those sort of Iron Man's right arm GoPro shots going back over his shoulder. And I think it's very cool. I'm a fan. And he asks where Banner is. And
leading question.
Chekhov's banner is what we call that.
Yeah. You skipped right over one of my favorite parts of this particular minute, though. And it's when, we're talking about all the Chitauri leaping off on their umbilical cords, and we have a number of them leap off and into, in this building right next to, or just south of Grand Central Terminal. It is 120 Park Avenue. And what I love about this is that on this particular, there's this patio view at about the 22nd through the 24th floors. And the Chitauri comes lodging through the window into this place and immediately grabs his gun and just starts shooting at all the people in there. It's just like, nope, you're going down, you damn accountants. Like,
that's what I was wondering. Is that the law firm or is that the labor, the like temp?
Well, this is a
company,
different building. This is across the street from that one. This is 120 Park Avenue, constructed in 1981. It is in 2008, so a few years before the film. It was purchased from Philip Morris, who had it up until then, and they let it out to Bloomberg, PMI, and Oracle. So those three companies make up the bulk of this building. So one of those three companies is likely the one who just got invaded there.
Well, I do want to say that in the West Coast, their January through June half, they had 308,766 questionable units, which is a 73% change leading into their July through December units.
Yeah, you noticed the whiteboard in there too.
Yeah. I feel like we should do an accurate reporting of their performance in units.
Right, I know. I'm wondering, like, which of these companies is reporting that way? I mean, it seems like a Bloomberg sort of thing.
It sure does, but then it would have been on a screen. Bloomberg is all screens. This whiteboard, this is a consultant, another kind of consulting company.
And maybe that's PMI.
Probably, it's PMI.
Yeah.
This is my question though. Do they just have bad aim? I mean, I'm glad because the people got to run, but I'm like, what are they shooting at?
A lot of drywall destruction.
Yeah, like it's just like 3 shots and one guy jumps over here, 2 other people go to the other direction. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, do they just have bad aim? Is it like just pull out your gun, just start firing? Can you not see? Like, I don't know I'm just like, what are they shooting at? It's just like destruction for destruction.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you might otherwise see them like looking to hold the planet hostage, and maybe those were warning shots. Maybe that's what this guy didn't get the memo to kill everything, and he just did warning shots.
I mean, I would be like, thank you, dude, because I'd be taking off. Like, I'd be out the building, but, you know, I'm just curious if they just like, I don't know, it's just weird. Like, now that you point that out and you really focus on it, it's like, okay, took the drywall out. Cool. Give me a minute to run then.
Yeah, so much drywall.
There's some serious drywall there. Like, those 2 people are buried under drywall.
Funny. There's so much dust.
And the guy on the left who actually runs, it's just like he's one of those runs as he runs out that you don't want to watch backward and forward because he is the funniest little way that he wobbles his body as he's running
with the little, like, he has like a folder or something in his head.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. It's a real force majeure run is what he's got. He's like, I'll leave my family. Get me out of here.
Exactly. Oh, it's so great. What's interesting about this Chitauri is, a lot of these Chitauri, they have, as we've seen, they have those arm guns. It's already kind of like their arm is inside the gun. This one that comes into the building, his gun is on his back, and he actually pulls it off, and it actually flips open. It's an interesting, like, little flippy gun, the way that it kind of, I'm not exactly sure what it's doing, but it like flips down and he grabs it and uses it to start shooting. It's an interesting weapon design. I'd love to kind of see it in a slower shot so I could actually figure out how that unfolding of it actually works.
Comic question. Maybe not a comic question. Do we know the Leviathan? Was the Leviathan at all ever comic based? And follow-up question, it's pulsing with purple goo on its back and sides down its flank, and I'm wondering if that is some sort of stone-related propulsion.
The Leviathan didn't show up until the comics around these films.
Okay.
So it was in like the Iron Man 3 Prelude comic, Thor the Dark World Prelude comic, the adaptation of this, and Infinity War, Spider-Man Far From Home, Black Widow Prelude, I guess, probably featured some flashback scenes. But yeah, it was not something that had been around before this particular moment.
Yeah, because I mean, at one point I was thinking maybe this is just the Chitauri version of the helicarrier. They just have these things floating around all the time, and they just birth themselves from it all the time. But the second is, do you think, like, what do you think its propulsion? Because that question of how it's floating and how it transitions from completely weightless in space to needing to have some agency in where it moves in Earth gravity is it still boggles my mind a little bit. So what's driving it, do you think? Is that because it's purple gooey energy?
There's definitely something going on with it, but I don't know. It's an interesting question because it definitely seems alive. Like we see the face of it. It is this biomechanical creature. I mean, the wiki, everything pretty much says that this thing was cybernetically augmented. And so it does make me go to, I mean, geez, even just looking at something, the recent, like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, looking at augmenting a creature to make it do more for you. It certainly seems in line with a lot of things that people are doing in universe, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's almost like it notices it's not destroying enough, so it gets more intentional. It's like right now I can just float and drop my kids off, but they're not doing enough destruction. So let me crank it up a little bit and really crash to the center of this building and turn it up a notch. You know, it's like it's almost sensing like it's not taking out enough people. It's not giving them enough drama, like as it continues throughout these shots. That it's like, okay, all right, you avoided that. Like you got rid of them there, but I got you. I got something else.
Exactly.
I got more kids to drop off uptown.
Yep, it's a lot of kids.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Right, because what it does, they kind of watch it fly by, and it turns, and by the time we see that, not the shot where Iron Man's flying parallel to it that you like so much, Pete, but the first one that we see where it's almost like a long lens shot of watching it like swimming between a few buildings in the distance.
Love it.
It's a great shot. And we see Iron Man come in, but by this point, it has actually shifted. It's kind of done it's turned up a block, and now it's actually flying up Fifth Avenue. So it's kind of done a whole big turn as it kind of heads up Fifth, back up toward Stark Tower. And that's that cool shot that we get. You get to see the Langham Hotel at the very beginning of that shot at about 41 seconds in. By the time we cut to Tony as he's flying parallel with it, this is where we're really seeing kind of this destruction that it's doing. Is flying, and its wing, a wing flipper? Is it a flipper on a worm? What would a worm have? A wing or a flipper?
Appendage? I don't know. Gross.
I'm just going to go with a metal. It's like it's flipper, but it slices through the top of a building. Like it literally, like you can see the glass bursting on our side of it as the flipper essentially cuts the entire top of this building off. It's really interesting the way that they're just portraying like so much destruction in the city because of these things.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, and that leads to, I don't want to jump too far ahead after my favorite shot. Then we get the shot of Loki and Thor on top, and he says, "Look at this." Thor does, and they look down and they see the city, and it's just being pummeled. And that is another one of those kind of horrifying shots. The, oh my God, Avengers is going there, right? Because we know what it looks like when a hole is blasted in a skyscraper. And that this is, by recreating that for sequences like this, I think is, it's a risky endeavor to do this. I think it plays off, but it's risky.
Ryan, when you saw this film, did you have any thoughts about New York and kind of showing this sort of destruction on a massive scale in New York City?
I didn't. I think you get wrapped up. What I'm starting to notice, and I think it's so interesting that you guys are pointing out these aspects of the buildings and that it being in New York. I think you get wrapped up with the heroicness of it all, like the superhero, like, it has to be big and destructive because the superheroes have to come in.
Yeah.
But you don't think about, like, when it freezes on an image like this, like what that means to some people. Like it could invoke different thoughts, trigger people in different ways. But if you're coming as like, just a Marvel fan, what you get out of these comics, you want to see it come to life. You want to see the production design match the height of, the stakes of these heroes. I think it's more of where I was coming from. But now going back and looking at it, when you kind of break it down, you're like, well, this is like seeing these shots of New York could be triggering because of the way it looks. Like it looks like there's no hope. Like, they're giving you that hopeless moment at a minute. Everything is on fire. Where are the Avengers at? They're all scattered around. You know, you got this continuous fight with Thor and Loki. It's like nothing's being done. Like, it just keeps it's getting worse.
Yeah.
It's like, when is it stop? So it kind of gives you that kind of hopeless feeling. You're like, okay, where are these heroes at? Like, what's going on right now?
Yeah, it's interesting the way that they kind of craft it with all of this. You know, it's a very destructive story, and you know that. I mean, your point I think makes a lot of sense because we're watching this superhero story, and it's the Avengers, and so we need it to be a really big final confrontation because we have 6 heroes. We need to kind of match the size of 6 potential heroes, and we take what we've seen them fighting in those first 5 films as far as the villains go, and we need to amp that up to something that really requires 6 people to actually fight. And so it's going to have to be big and destructive. It's just so it's just one of those things. And I suppose, as another guest had pointed out, there is this kind of resilience of New York sort of vibe, that tone that they kind of, I think, really are relying on in these stories to kind of keep beating New York up as they do.
New York strong.
Yep.
Exactly. What's really great about that shot, Pete, right there toward the end of this minute, about 55 seconds or so, if you look really closely, you can actually see Bruce on his moped coming up the road.
You cannot. Don't make me look.
What?
You're trolling right now.
I'm totally trolling you, yes. No.
Oh, man.
Man.
I kept trying to stop it. I thought I was going to see it.
That was the meanest thing you've done to us so far.
I would love it, though, if the distance that they actually just like, oh, let's be little tiny.
I need to take 5 right now. I was just so into that moment. I know. I need to take 5. It's just...
What's okay, but coming back to Thor and Loki, this is really Thor's plea to his brother to kind of stop this madness and look at what you're doing, all of this sort of stuff. Do you think that this will actually end with you ruling this place? What do you two think of the way we have an interesting shot right toward the end of this minute of Tom Hiddleston's face, of Loki as he's looking out on all of this? Is this like a moment of realization for him? I mean, how do you two read this look on his face?
It's hard to go back. Now I don't trust him. Now I know, like, you know, with the stories that come with Loki, this is why he's never been one of my favorite, like, Marvel characters, because he's so, like, he can draw you in so easily with the whole, like, you know, we're family and I can do this and I believe this, but he can so smoothly change and, like, be on the other side very quickly. But I think when I first saw it, I was like, well, maybe because they're brothers, maybe he's gotten through to him. Like, maybe it worked. But if you know Loki, like, his face is like, he can do a lot with his face, where he draws you in, like, oh man, look at all this destruction I'm doing. But inside, he's crafting his next move. He's like, I just got to get him off close enough for me to keep going. Like, he's still crafting his next move. So right now, I just see, like, a face I don't trust. But before, I thought he was a good guy. I thought he could maybe turn around. I mean, you know, half New York is destroyed, but I thought he had a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Well, you know what I'll tell you what I thought about just today as I was watching it again was this, that I wonder if this and the next minute are the minutes where somebody of some authority at Marvel said, I think we might have something with this Tom Hiddleston guy. Right?
Ooh, yeah.
This is a turn for him. This is a performative turn where he doesn't look like a dope when he realizes that something is going on in the city that is maybe out of his control. This is like the first authentic minute of emotion that I feel like we get out of him. And it changes very abruptly, obviously, because that's Loki. But this minute, I think, is performative excellence. I think Tom Hiddleston is at the very top here.
Yeah.
It is such an interesting moment that we have, this moment between brothers, as it really does feel like he actually is listening to him for a moment and looking at what is happening and realizing, yeah, I'm going to rule this place, but I'm destroying it. Maybe I should rethink my strategy here. And honestly, like our minute cuts out right in the middle of their conversation, right after Thor finishes his line. And it's actually kind of a perfect moment to stop because we really get that view of Loki thinking about all of this. And then our next minute, of course, shifts it in a different direction. But No, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
It's great.
Well, I think it's a good place to wrap this one up because we'll be back tomorrow to finish the conversation between Loki and Thor. So, Ryan, tell everybody again about Black Girl Nerds and what you all are up to over there.
Yes, Black Girl Nerds on all social media platforms. Follow us on YouTube because we recently just started doing a recap. We got Little Mermaid by the time you watch this. So, had a lot of fun with that. I'm a Fast X fan. I go pretty hard on that. So I did a review on that. So check that out. I'm a Fast and Furious fan. Would you be surprised? I mean, it's another transportation that sometimes doesn't stay on the ground. So definitely check me out for that review.
I bet you really went for it as soon as they started launching cars into space.
Yeah. I was way too excited. So if you guys want to see more about things that don't stay on the ground and hear my commentary, go check that out. But yeah, thank you guys again for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome.
Oh, it's always so much fun. Well, we'll be back tomorrow to talk with you about Minute 108. So it should be fun then. So thank you so much, Ryan. And Pete, thanks as always.
Tomorrow, Andy, we get to see that Asgardian shivs are really pretty nice.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Message to the World by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm. If your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show.